On a warm August afternoon, Villanova University buzzed with the excitement of a new school year. The class of 2029 had just moved in, families lingering for final goodbyes, the air thick with hope and nerves. Orientation events filled the day, students and parents exploring campus, meeting professors, and imagining the years ahead. But beneath the surface of this idyllic scene, no one could have predicted the terror about to unfold. A single, malicious phone call would soon turn celebration into chaos, transforming the campus into the center of a massive police investigation. The sense of security every parent hopes for was about to be shattered, forcing the Villanova community to confront its worst fears. At 4:30 p.m., the ordinary rhythm of campus life was shattered by an anonymous report of an active shooter at the law school. Within moments, Villanova's emergency protocols snapped into action, transforming a place of learning into a scene of uncertainty and fear. The sound of sirens and the sight of flashing lights signaled that this was no ordinary afternoon. Phones across campus blared with a chilling alert: shelter in place. Lock and barricade your doors. The message was clear, urgent, and impossible to ignore. In an instant, the familiar comfort of campus was replaced by a sense of imminent danger. Orientation events meant to welcome new students dissolved into confusion and fear. Laughter and excitement were replaced by hurried whispers and anxious glances. The sense of community was tested as everyone scrambled to find safety. Students rushed into buildings, pushing desks against doors, silencing their phones, and huddling together in uncertainty. Some hid in closets or under tables, clutching backpacks at each other, waiting for any sign that the danger had passed. Was it a drill? The urgency in the voices over the loudspeakers and the distant wail of sirens made it clear. This was real. The outside world faded away, replaced by the tense silence of lockdown. Texts flew to parents and loved ones. "I'm okay. I'm safe," students wrote, even as anxiety mounted. Each message was a lifeline, a desperate attempt to reassure and be reassured. Every sound outside became a possible threat. Footsteps in the hallway, a door creaking, even the hum of the air conditioning. Each noise sent hearts racing and imaginations spiraling. The campus, still reeling from a real tragedy at Emory University just weeks before, felt the weight of recent history pressing down. Memories of loss and fear resurfaced, making the present crisis even more acute. In those tense moments, strangers became allies, united by fear and hope. Students who had never met before found comfort in each other's presence, sharing whispered reassurances and silent prayers. The lockdown stretched on, minutes feeling like hours as the community held its breath. Time seemed to slow, every tick of the clock echoing the uncertainty that filled the air. The threat felt immediate, the weight agonizing. Students clung to hope, watching the minutes crawl by, wondering when, or if, it would be safe to emerge. The sense of welcome that once defined the campus was gone, replaced by a tense, collective vigilance. Hallways that had been filled with laughter now echoed with silence and worry. When the all-clear finally came, the day's promise had vanished, replaced by a test of resilience. The campus would never be quite the same, but its community had faced the unimaginable, together. Law enforcement mobilized instantly, flooding Villanova with officers from local, state, and federal agencies. Tactical teams swept the law school, methodically clearing every room, their movements precise and deliberate. News helicopters circled overhead, broadcasting the tense scene. The campus became a fortress, every entrance secured, students and staff guided to safety. Officers worked with calm authority, their presence both intimidating and reassuring. For nearly 2 hours, the search expanded across campus, no corner left unchecked. Radios crackled, footsteps echoed, and the community waited in silence. The mission: find the threat, protect the innocent. The operation was a model of interagency cooperation. The stakes were clear. Thousands of lives depended on their diligence. The outcome would define the day for everyone at Villanova. Inside locked rooms, students and parents faced a nightmare that felt both immediate and endless. The world outside faded away, replaced by the suffocating uncertainty of what might come next. Every second stretched, heavy with dread, as the reality of the lockdown set in. Freshmen, just hours into college life, hid under desks, their dreams replaced by dread. The excitement of a new beginning was suddenly overshadowed by fear, as they wondered if they would ever feel safe on campus again. For many, this was their first time away from home, and the sense of isolation was overwhelming. Separated from friends and family, they clung to strangers for comfort. In those tense moments, the boundaries between classmates faded, and everyone became a source of support. Small gestures, a hand to hold, a whispered reassurance, became lifelines in the darkness. Parents on campus, like Courtney Harris Bond, were trapped nearby, powerless to protect their children. Some paced the hallways, others pressed their faces to windows, desperate for any sign of safety. The helplessness was crushing as they waited for news that might bring relief or heartbreak. Texts and whispered updates became lifelines. Students clung to their phones, sending frantic messages to loved ones, trying to reassure them while seeking reassurance themselves. Every vibration or ping brought a surge of hope or a new wave of anxiety. Faculty, many off campus, struggled to get reliable information, their concern growing with every conflicting report. Professors checked in with students, desperate to offer guidance, but often found themselves just as lost and afraid. The uncertainty was shared by all. The silence was heavy, broken only by anxious prayers and the glow of phone screens. In that hush, every sound, a distant siren, a footstep in the hallway, felt amplified, sending hearts racing and imaginations spiraling. As the lockdown dragged on, shock gave way to grim patience. Exhaustion set in, but no one dared to let their guard down. The minutes ticked by, each one a test of endurance and hope. Students shared rumors, watched news feeds, and tried to make sense of the chaos. Misinformation spread quickly, fueling confusion and fear as everyone searched for answers that never seemed to come fast enough. The ordeal was surreal, but the fear was real. Faces reflected a mix of disbelief and terror as the reality of the situation settled in. For many, it was a moment that would change them forever. In those hours, the Villanova community was united by vulnerability and hope. Strangers became friends, and the shared experience forged bonds that would last long after the lockdown ended. Even in the darkest moments, the spirit of togetherness endured. For parents far from campus, the alert was a gut punch. In an instant, the ordinary rhythm of their day was shattered by a message they had always dreaded but never truly expected. The distance between home and campus, once a symbol of their child's growing independence, suddenly felt like an insurmountable barrier. A text, an email, or a news alert plunged them into helplessness. The words on the screen were stark and impersonal, but the fear they triggered was deeply personal. Parents found themselves staring at their phones, willing them to ring, desperate for any sign that their child was safe. Their children, just days into independence, were suddenly in danger. The memories of move-in day, of hugs and hopeful goodbyes replayed in their minds, now tinged with anxiety and regret. The pride they felt in watching their children take their first steps into adulthood was replaced by a primal urge to protect. Every minute without an update felt endless. Time seemed to slow, each second stretching into eternity as parents paced their homes, unable to focus on anything but the uncertainty. Phone calls and texts became lifelines. Relief came only with a reply, "I'm safe." For some, the wait was mercifully short. For others, it dragged on, each unanswered message fueling their worst fears. Still, fear lingered, and parents clung to news and social media for scraps of information. They scrolled endlessly, searching for updates, for any mention of their child's dorm or building, for reassurance that the danger had passed. Online groups formed, offering comfort and sharing updates. In these virtual spaces, strangers became allies, united by worry and hope. Parents shared what little they knew, offered words of encouragement, and found solace in community. News images of armed officers on familiar paths made the threat feel painfully real. The campus, once a place of learning and laughter, was now a scene of fear and uncertainty, broadcast to the world. Villanova was no longer just a school. It was the site of a potential tragedy. The sight of police vehicles and news crews outside the gates was a stark reminder that no place is immune to danger. When the all-clear finally came, relief was overwhelming, often bringing tears. The simple joy of hearing a loved one's voice or holding them close was a gift, cherished more deeply than ever before. The experience left a mark, shattering the illusion of safety. Even after the danger had passed, the anxiety lingered, a shadow that would not easily fade. The joy of sending a child to college was now forever linked to this terrifying day. What was once a milestone of hope and pride had become a memory tinged with fear. Parents were forced to confront their worst fears in the most direct way. Yet in the aftermath, many found a renewed sense of gratitude for every ordinary moment and a deeper connection to the community of families who had endured the same ordeal. At 6:30 p.m., the message everyone craved arrived. All clear. The search was over. No shooter, no weapons, no injuries. Relief swept across campus and through families everywhere. Students emerged from hiding, reuniting with friends in emotional scenes. The sense of community, forged in fear, was now cemented in relief. Law enforcement remained, guiding a careful return to normalcy. The transition from terror to safety was jarring, but gratitude prevailed. The emotional toll lingered, the day's excitement replaced by exhaustion. Orientation events were forgotten, replaced by impromptu gatherings of shaken students. The crisis was over, but the memory would last. The class of 2029's story had changed forever. With the campus secure, leaders addressed the shaken community. University President Reverend Peter M. Donahue called the incident a cruel hoax, expressing relief and gratitude for everyone's safety. He praised law enforcement's swift, professional response. Delaware County District Attorney Jack Stolzheimer vowed to find those responsible, calling it a serious crime. The FBI joined the investigation, determined to trace the anonymous call. Governor Josh Shapiro condemned the swatting, promising accountability. These statements brought clarity and reassurance, validating the community's fear and trauma. The message was clear. This was not a harmless prank, but a crime that would not go unpunished. The hoax cast a long shadow over what should have been a joyful start. Freshmen's first day was now defined by trauma, not celebration. Orientation events were abandoned, replaced by emergency protocols and difficult conversations. The sense of campus as a safe haven was shaken. Faculty and staff pivoted from welcome to crisis management, bearing a heavy emotional burden. Yet the ordeal revealed the community's strength. Strangers supported each other, staff acted quickly, and everyone followed instructions with courage. The start of the year was forever changed, but it began with a powerful lesson in resilience. Villanova's bonds of care and responsibility shone through the darkness. As fear faded, gratitude took its place. The community thanked law enforcement for their swift, decisive action. Villanova began offering counseling and support, determined to heal and rebuild trust. Security protocols would be reviewed, but the real work was restoring a sense of safety. The search for those responsible continued, a promise of justice for all. The memory of the hoax would linger, but it would not define Villanova. Instead, the day would stand as a testament to the community's strength, unity, and resolve to protect one another.